As you can tell, I'm not in my usual location, and that's because I'm in London at the moment trying to make use of a hotel room. What's really interesting is I've come full circle. You know, I came here 10 years ago, did a Europe trip, I did a Kentucky around Europe, and that was when I turned 20. Now I've just turned 30 as of a couple of days ago, and so I've got a few lessons that I've learned or experiences that I want to really share with you guys that can ultimately help you guys not make the same mistakes. And it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, your 30s or 40s. I think there's a lot here that's universal to all age groups just to get the right mindset around investing, as well as having a happier and more balanced lifestyle. If you are interested, keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, cryptocurrency, and financial freedom. Now, I'm not in my usual location, and that's fairly obvious because I'm being super awkward with my hands. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and this is a working holiday. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I've been traveling around Europe so far for about a week and a half, and we've got another 4 weeks to go. Now, does that mean the YouTube channel stops? No. Does that mean Patreon stops? No, because this is a working holiday. For us, we could have taken this trip and probably covered everything off in about 3 weeks, but instead we decided to do about 5.5 weeks. That way we can have the time to actually go and do some work, do some emails, as well as still run the buyer's agency. Obviously, I have a team that sits back in Sydney and Melbourne that is helping me run the buyer's agency, and so everything is running exactly how it's supposed to. Let's jump into 10 lessons that I've learned from and have been a big part of shaping my mindset as well as investing and business behavior. The first one is pay for experiences. When you're in your 20s, you're probably thinking one or the other. You go either extreme into party mode and spending money on tables as well as going out, and then you've got the other extreme where people are watching YouTube channels like myself and going, hey, I should have started earlier. Let me aggressively now save, let go of lifestyle, and just continue building my investment portfolio. Now, contrary to what I usually advocate on this channel, I think it's super important to enjoy your 20s. Yes, you can go ahead and start investing early, but you're also never going to have your 20s again. I know for a fact that I'm so glad I didn't purchase that one extra property or 2 extra properties or invested a little bit more into crypto, because it allowed me to actually have a balanced lifestyle, go out, spend on experiences like travel as well. And I think that's been so important, at least from my perspective, and knowing that I'm enjoying my 20s, smelling the flowers as I go along this journey has made it a lot more fruitful, but also more sustainable. I don't have any regrets, and I think that's something important to keep in mind when you're starting out, whether it's in your 20s or 30s, that you need to go and spend some money on yourself and spend it on experiences like travel or food, whatever you prefer. Number 2 is invest early and consistently. Now, yes, it's probably contrary to the first one, but you've got to do everything in a balanced way. You can't just go out there and say, hey, I made $1,200 this week. I'm going to go ahead and invest all $1,200, which means I basically don't have any money for food and experiences in my 20s. Equally, you can't go the other way and just say, well, I'm going to invest $1,200 or spend all $1,200. You've got to have a balanced approach. And I think if you can do this with a consistent mindset and behavior, you're probably going to get further ahead than people that jump in because they heard someone else saying that Bitcoin's going to the moon, or they're sitting there and they found out that the property market's booming. I better FOMO in and buy just because I want to. Having a plan allows you to then go and enjoy those little things as well as consistently build up the portfolio. Starting earlier means that you make less sacrifices. It means you can invest a little bit less, but over time it will grow through compounding interest. And the later you start, the harder it becomes, which means you need to allocate more of your funds into investing to get to that portfolio. Number 3 is formal education is overrated. Now, take it from someone that has gone out there, done a bachelor's degree in marketing and management consulting. I then went and did an advanced diploma in conveyancing. I've then got my certificates in mortgage broking and finance, as well as in real estate services. So I've done my fair share of formal education. And what I've learned is that for those who need those formal education certificates as a prerequisite, like if you wanted to become a doctor, you needed to go down that path, I think then it makes sense. But for everyone else, which is the mass majority of people, you don't need to go and get one. Now, we have companies changing the way they're going to hire people. I went and got a grad position. I was very fortunate. I'm very grateful that as soon as I got out of uni, I already had a job and it was high paying and it was at Mars Chocolate, which was amazing. But it meant that the only way I could get that grad position was if I had that certificate, if I had that piece of paper as a bachelor's degree. But we put too much emphasis on a grad program or on that certificate. So for me, if I had my time over again, if I knew I wanted to get into marketing, I would then go down the path of actually learning from others, learning from experience, and going out there getting a job, rather than getting a bachelor's degree. And the worst thing that I've seen happen, and I've seen it with friends as well, they go out and they do a master's degree straight after that because they're like, hey,
well, I need to go get my master's for whatever bullshit reason they came up with.
But I'm going to do it straight after, which means I've now got the bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I'm now 23 or 24, have no experience, but I'm expecting someone to hire me at C-level executive position. Like, it doesn't work like that. And I think people need to understand that times have changed. The education system hasn't really adapted. So there's so many ways that you can actually still make it. I've got close mates that are running their own businesses now, making 10 times more than some of the guys that I went to uni with. So it's just perspective. If you need it, then you need to go for it. And that's the only reason I had to go and do my real estate, mortgage broking, and conveyancing stuff, because I was pursuing a career in those things that required that as part of the license. Number 4 is invest in self-awareness. Now you're probably wondering, how do you invest in self-awareness? For me, the way that I went about this was reading podcasts and learning from other people. Now that could be a range of things that you prefer, watching YouTube videos, whatever it may be. But the reason why self-awareness is so important, and is going to tie into a few other lessons that I've learned in my 20s, is that you need to figure out what you like and don't like. If you don't spend enough time trying to figure that out for yourself by doing experiences and actually reflecting, you're not actually going to find fulfillment in what you do. You won't find your purpose. And in your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, that's all you're trying to figure out. It's not just about, hey, how do I make as much money? How do I go and invest as much money? Because those are short-term metrics. When you go and do something purely for money, you're not going to make it. Look at this YouTube channel, for instance. If I started this channel with the whole idea of just making as much money as I could, I probably would have quit about 6 months after I started. But the reason I continue putting out videos like this, and I would come on a holiday to London and still dedicate time to these videos, is because I actually enjoy it. I enjoy it from the fact that I get to research and make these videos for you, but 2, I know there's someone else listening on the other end of this, and it's actually making a difference because you guys email me, and I'm super grateful that when you share your stories around what you've achieved just by watching these videos. So if you're someone that has been positively affected by these videos, smash that like button. It's definitely going to help the channel. Number 5 is try different careers. You know, you weren't actually meant to go into your 20s. So straight after uni, you would go, I'm going to find a job, work my way up the corporate ladder, and then realize by the time I'm 31, 32, that I don't actually like doing this. Now, the problem with that is that now you're probably making a decent figure salary. You now have to shift down if you're going to change career paths, because you're going to start from day one again. And this ties in with the reason why I'm so happy doing what I do, because I tried and tested so many things. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing, because I picked up skills and worked on my strengths and my weaknesses as I went through the process. That meant that I went through careers that I didn't really enjoy. That meant jobs that I took up that I stayed at for a week, or in some cases, even less than a week. And it was because I needed to taste. I needed to scratch that itch that was there. For a lot of people, they get into this mindset that I'm making this much, I can make this much next year, and then I can invest more. And it just becomes such a methodical process. By the time you're in your 30s and your 40s, you're realizing you should have made the pivots back then, because that would have made a huge difference. And this ties in with your self-awareness, because if you don't know what you like, you're probably going down a path you're not going to find fulfillment from. And that's why a lot of people sort of look at, you know, how do I get financial freedom? How do I retire early? Is because they don't actually like what they do. So if you're someone that is out there watching this video saying,
I don't really like what I do, I just want to retire,
well, figure out what retirement looks like and then work your way backwards, because what you're going to do in your spare time, you can always monetize afterwards. But if you can do that with passion, you're probably going to figure out fulfillment and purpose a lot faster, which means the whole process works a lot better. Number 6 is stop comparing. Now, we live in an age of social media. So that means you can go onto social media, go onto Instagram, and you can see someone's day 100 or someone's day 2,500 and then compare it to your day 1. What I mean by that is that for someone that's been working out for 6 years, you going into the gym for the first time and you spent a week, you can't compare your results to someone who's been going for 6 years. And that's the same thing that applies to going out, making money, investing in other things as well, because those people have gone out there and done it over time. You can't compare your day 1 to someone's day 100. If you come out of this mindset that you're trying to please other people, you're comparing, so you need to put a particular persona out there, you're not really going to be satisfied with what you do, but it definitely plays a big part in your mental stability, because you're always in this constant battle with other people that don't even know you exist. Number 7 is reading is a superpower. And this is something I realized in my later 20s, and I still don't do enough of it. I think we should be super grateful that there are YouTube channels as well as podcasts as well as books that are out there that allow you to learn from other people's experiences. You can pick up so much knowledge. It's like being a fly on the wall from some of the most successful people, right? And so books are another way that you can actually go and get a lot of that passive knowledge come through, because you're actively going out there and reading, but there's a lot happening in the back of your brain, and you're not just reading for the sake of reading, right? If you're reading something that is going to help you in terms of self-help, mental health, self-awareness, things like that, it allows you to start rewiring your brain. And it might be the 3rd or 4th book that you read that year that's going to really get you into thinking a particular way. I know for me, it was Gary Vee. First time I picked up his book and I was like, hey, I actually enjoy this. And this was like, 5 or 6 years ago. So ever since then, I realized that it wasn't just about me not liking to read. It was that I didn't find the content that I actually liked reading. Now, it's very different to if you go out there and you say, well, I'm reading fantasy books and whatnot, because then that sort of falls into leisure, right? If you're out there sort of going, I want to upgrade my skills in terms of my mindset, figure out my career, figure out what I like and not like, and self-awareness, you're probably not going to get that from reading like Twilight, right? And there's nothing wrong with reading those things. It just means that you are self-aware enough to go, that's pretty much time that's leisure. If I'm going out there trying to be productive, then that's probably not it. Number 8 is pay for expertise. Now, this was more of a cultural challenge because my dad was someone who said, well, look, you don't have to pay for the service. You can probably figure it out yourself. It was a really good lesson for me because I did go out there, figure out things that I actually liked. But what I realized is that I'm not going to be good at every single thing. And I'm definitely not going to like everything I pick up. So instead of doing it that way and just trying to figure it out myself and do the best I can actually pay for that expertise. I can outsource that. Although there is an upfront cost, you realize the benefits over time. And that's something that I've definitely appreciated with the moves that I've made. And it's probably been more in my mid to late 20s that I started doing that, because in my first half of the 20s, I'm like, save every single dollar. I don't want to go out and spend money on a webinar or expertise from someone else. And I don't want to pay for someone else's advice on what they've learned and what their knowledge. It's just me going out there and sort of figuring it out myself. Now, you can either get really lucky and make it, or chances are that you're probably not going to get lucky and make a huge mistake. Now, for me, that's the reason I started the Buyers Agency. You can check out the website. There's a link in the description below, which really is assisting people like yourself that want to get started in property but don't actually know how to do it. And for someone like myself who's gone out there, built the portfolio in my 20s, I'm doing it actively in this market. So if you are interested in that, there's a link in the description below, but it goes beyond just Buyers Agency. It could be accounting. It could be for your car. It could be for personal training. There's so much out there. You should be tapping into those people's expertise. And then that way you can focus on things you actually like and enjoy, because that's going to give you more of a return than you trying to focus on something you don't actually enjoy. Number 9 is water your own garden first. Okay. So I'm not talking about actually going to Bunnings and, creating a garden, although that would be pretty cool. Most of us are living in units now, so you don't really get that. What I mean by watering your garden first is that there are a lot of people out there that I know personally as well that really want to give a helping hand to others. And that's amazing. It's an amazing trait. And I did that in my 20s as well, where I went and volunteered as well in Cambodia. And it's a very rewarding feeling. But the problem is that if you only have X amount and it's a small supply of what you can give, then there's not much you can do in terms of helping the other side. You might be able to do a little bit, but what I would rather prefer to do is to actually go out there, use those resources, build my own machine, water my own garden, get in the right headspace for myself, and then I can give 10x, 20x return to anyone else. And that is so important, because such a human trait is to actually help other people. And that's why I bring out these videos. But I wouldn't do it to the detriment where I was being mentally starved, I was burnt out, and I couldn't do it anymore. Because for me, that meant I wasn't operating at 100%, which means my partner's not getting 100% of me, my family's not getting 100% of me. And then I'm saying, well, at least I'm helping someone else outside, but internally I'm breaking down. And that's so important that you need to take time for yourself, really do prioritize yourself. And once you figure that out, then you can start increasing what sort of water and what sort of resources you give out to people. And that could include friends and those toxic relationships that they come to you, talk to you about, and they need someone to give them a hand. But you can't do that effectively if you aren't watering your own garden. Get right in here first, and the rest falls into place. And the final lesson, and probably the most important, is change your perspective on age. I know for a fact that in my 19, 20, 21, 22, I thought 30 was really, really old. I'm like, far out, you're a dinosaur. And then when I got to 25, I was like, hey, 30's not that bad. But if you're 40, you're definitely old. Now that I'm 30, I'm sort of sitting there and going, well, I've learned this lesson that I can't look at 40, 50, and 60 as old. And I know for a fact that when you get to those ages, you're like, hey, I'm still doing things that I would probably have done 5 years ago. I don't feel like I'm any different here at 30, but obviously it's because of small increments or small changes that you've made into your life that you've now become the person you are. And it's a constant work in progress. I'm definitely going to progress, and in 10 years time, hopefully we can reflect on this video when I'm 40. But the main thing here is that when you go out there and you say, well, I'm 25, I need to achieve this by 28, otherwise I'm old, I need to get married by 29, you need to take a step back and realize what priorities are and talk to people that are older than you. They're going to be the best point of contact when it comes to experience, their knowledge as well, to pick their brains around what does 30 actually feel like. And don't go and talk to people that you look at their lives and go, I don't actually want to live that life, or I don't really agree with the values you have, but I'm going to still ask them. Go out there, seek the people that you actually aspire to be, or be around people that actually lift you up and they're headed into a direction that you're also heading into. So those are my 10 lessons. I'd love to know what your lesson has been. And that could be in your 30s, your 50s, your 60s.
I think when you get to about 70, then you're probably old, right?
But before that, definitely let me know in the comments down below. We're trying to build that community, right? So there might be something that I've missed out here that I can actually learn from you. So that's the biggest way you can show me appreciation for this channel. If you've learned something, subscribe, like the video, share it with someone, but also contribute. Build this audience, help other people, and it's going to come around to you 10x as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.